Hi, I'm Jessica with Move Up Health and Fitness, and I'm going to be going through a foam roller routine today. So this is to help with myofascial release, and it usually helps to ease any kind of aching in your joints. It's a really great warm-up before you exercise to loosen all your muscles up. So let's go ahead and get started. So you're gonna need a foam roller. I have, I believe, a 36-inch foam roller. They have 18-inch ones and varying sizes. I kind of like this one, especially for my back. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I always start with the upper back. And you're gonna place the foam roller kind of right around the mid back. You want it on the rib cage, you don't want it below the rib cage. And then you're gonna go ahead and bridge up and work your feet down to roll up on your back, up towards the shoulders. Try not to end up on the neck, just stay on the back. And then you're gonna walk yourself back up. And you can roll up and down a couple of times. I like to kind of rock to the side, especially if I feel a little bit of a knot. Your back might pop on this. Mine pops all the time. So just make sure you're rolling 4 or 5 times is good. I usually go for about 20 to 30 seconds and then I move on. So the next part is going to be the lats. So you're staying in that upper back area and you're just going to kind of tilt to the side and use your bottom arm to pillow your head. And then you're just going to roll in that shoulder and kind of armpit area down into the upper rib cage. Don't go too low because it'll hurt. So you can roll both sides. If you find knots, you can pause on them for about 10 seconds. If you don't, you're just going to move on. And then you can move on to the lower back. So the way I position for this one is I lean to the side and I put the foam roller between my hip and my rib cage, so not on the bone, but in the muscle in between. So then I'm leaning on it. I can bridge up if I want to put a little more weight into it. And then typically I just roll back and forth towards my spine. So not up and down on this one. Although you can always adjust where you're at and do a little bit more side rolling. And again, if you're tender in any areas, you can spend a little more time there. If you're really tender, you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. And more time is not necessarily better. Don't expect for things to improve during the session. They'll improve in between sessions. So then you're going to get both sides, positioning the foam roller between the hip and the rib cage. Rolling up and down if you need to, but back and forth towards that spine. And you can just roll 4 or 5 times. You don't have to spend a ton of time, especially if you're just doing this as a warm-up for your workout. So then we're going to move on to the glutes. And you're going to go ahead and make a figure 4 with your legs, and then you're going to roll towards that side, working into that glute muscle on that side. And you have a couple of options. If it's comfortable for you and you're able to, you can come down onto your forearm so that way you're kind of flattening out the muscle and you can get a little bit more of that area. So I like to try and get up to the top of my hip and down to the bottom of my tailbone. Again, if you find some knots, you can stay on them. This one might be tender, especially if you have some sciatica. And then you're doing both sides. You can come down on that forearm. So that's the glutes. And then we're gonna go ahead and transition to the quads. So I'm gonna adjust myself here. So now we're gonna do the front of the legs. So these big muscles here. If you're really tight or you have some serious knots, it can be painful, so just take your time. This one usually gets me, so if I grimace, it's because I have knots. Okay, so I'm gonna position both thighs on here. If you have a smaller one, you can do one thigh at a time. So you would just position the foam roller on the one leg, and then you have the other leg to use for support. This way is a little bit faster. You actually take a little bit of your weight off the legs, so it can be a little less painful this way too. And then I just bear crawl up and down. And I wiggle a little bit, or I twist a little bit to try and get the different parts of the quad. So I do center, and then I kind of get off to the side and a little bit off to the inner part of the thigh. And if you see my leg kind of jumping, it's because I'm rolling over some knots right now. So this is kind of my need to spend time on it, my high priority area. So that's the quads, and then we'll go ahead and do the outer thigh, and I'm just gonna do one so you can see it, but you always make sure you do both. You wanna stay even. So for this one, and this one tends to be the more painful for people, so just take your time if you've never done it before. Put your hip on the side of the foam roller. This might be enough for you. If it is, then just hang out here for about 10-20 seconds, and if not, then you can go ahead and move on to the more advanced version of this. So you're gonna take that top leg and cross it over, extend that bottom leg, and you want it off the mat if you can manage to lift it, if you can stand to lift it. And then you're gonna come down, you're gonna use your leg and your arms to kind of work your way up to the top of the knee and then back to the top of the hip. And sometimes if you're really tender, moving towards the knee is really painful, so just progress at your own pace. Don't feel like you have to do the whole leg. You'll still get benefit if you can't get all the way down to the knee. So a few times on that side, and then you'll go ahead and roll over to the other side. Again, I'm just gonna do one for right now. And then we'll go ahead and do the inner thigh. So for the inner thigh, you turn the foam roller up, straight and down. And then you're gonna come forward onto your stomach, kind of in a plank position with your leg out to the side. And the foam roller is gonna travel from the inside of your knee up to the inside of your hip. So I usually just kind of push my hips out here to the side. Pull that knee back. The higher you are away from the mat, the more weight you're putting on the leg, the more intense your roll is gonna be. Again, if you're finding tender spots, you can just kind of pause on it, and then you can keep going. You really want to try and keep that knee out to the side. Sometimes it wants to kind of drift down, but then you're not really getting the inside of the thigh. So keep that knee out to the side. So that's the inner thigh. And then from there, we'll do the calf. So for this one, to give yourself a little bit more support, you can do one side. And you're gonna have your other foot next to the foam roller, and that'll just help you hold your body weight up. Otherwise, you're only using your arms. It can be kind of hard. So go ahead and come up onto your hands and that one foot, and you're just gonna roll along the calf the same way you have been for your other ones a few times. And then I also tilt my leg on this one as well. Get the inside of the calf, get the outside of the calf. So and then you would do both sides on this one as well. So and if you've been following along and you skip the outer thigh and inner thigh of your other leg, go ahead and go back and do those. Don't mind my sign that's falling down right now. So that's the foam roller video. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like the video.